let's have this conversation and get this party started. What should we talk about first when it comes to the benefits of real estate investing? Well, let's start at the top. Let's see here. One benefit of real estate investing that I like is that real estate investing, and I'm going to speak from the point of view of long-term real estate investing. So being a real estate investor and long-term rental, what does that mean? Long-term rental is, let's say you have a property, a house, a duplex, townhouse, and you do an agreement with a tenant, someone who's going to live there, and it's a 1-year lease agreement. That's a long-term rental. And so long-term rentals, where you have that tenant with the lease agreement paying you rent for, let's say on average about a year. And then after that, they can go month to month. But we're talking about long-term rentals. Long-term rentals, one benefit of real estate investing with the long-term rental, number one is it brings income generation. So income generation, everyone on Facebook may not see it, but I'm going to type it in on YouTube. Income generation. So if you're listening, you're tuning in, and your hands are free, you can type in the word income generation. That's one of the benefits of long-term rental. All right. So we already understand that rental income, investment properties can provide a steady stream of passive income through rent. So passive income, does anyone know what passive income is? If in the comment section, if you know what passive income is, we're going to make this interactive. You know how we do on Saturday morning, guys, whether you're fixing your breakfast, whether you're cleaning up, whatever the case may be, put me on YouTube, on the TV, or on your phone. If I'm in your ear, then just turn up the volume, you name it. Whatever your situation is, let's talk about financial literacy. Let's talk about real estate investing benefits. And this is a chance for you to learn and understand the benefits of it. So let's interact along the way as well. Does anyone know what passive income is? You have active income and you have passive income. What do you think the difference is between passive income and active income? And so we're talking about number one. One of the benefits of income generation is it gives you rental income. Anitra says passive income is income you made without physically being present to make the revenue. I love passive income. Passive income is amazing. Has anyone ever received passive income for something? Have you ever had the experience of receiving passive income? I don't care if it's $1, 50 cents, or $5,000. Passive income is beautiful. Oh my gosh. When passive income hits the bank account, when passive income shows up when you log in, when passive income is present, even when you are, passive income is an awesome, awesome feeling. For so long in America, we are taught to go clock in. In America, we are taught to make it to the job on time so that we can get paid. Listen to me. And so that is active income. When you physically have to be present, when you are physically lifting something, you're mentally making a decision. What active income requires your time, your energy, and so many other things. But when the income becomes passive, there's less required of you physically and mentally. I like that point right there. When it comes to passive income, there's less that is required of you physically and mentally and emotionally day to day. Passive income is an awesome feeling because with rental income, you create an opportunity to make passive income. So no matter what happens, once you have that property, whether it's usually the 1st through the 5th of every month, you are going to get rental income every single month. You're going to get that rental income. Good morning to you, Courtney. Good morning to you, Janice. So when we talk about passive income, thank you, Anitra, for that definition, putting it in your own words. Or I don't know, it looks kind of professional, but I think you put it in your own words. I like it. So when we talk about passive income, income made without you physically being present to make the revenue. I love it. Passive income is so beautiful that guess what? You can close your eyes and go to sleep. You can get a good snore going too, and the money's still going to come. That's the beauty of passive income. Whether you're awake, whether you're asleep, it's going to do its job. It's going to show up. Somebody in the comment section write, passive income is going to show up whether you're awake or whether you're asleep. Passive income shows up. Now, if you try to go to sleep on your job, it's difficult to consistently make that income show up for you if you continue to sleep on your active job. So you got to be careful there. You might get in trouble. You might get fired. But you can go to sleep on the passive income and you won't get fired. You can wake up, look at it, spend it. So that is one of the benefits of rental, long-term renting. If you dive into real estate investing, that's one of the benefits of that long-term renting there. And so passive income shows up whether you're asleep or awake. I love passive income. And passive income, you know, they tell a story about Santa Claus, how during one time a year, Santa Claus shows up while you sleep, comes down the chimney and leaves you gifts. Guess what? Passive income is better than Santa Claus. Yep, I said it. Passive income is better than Santa Claus because Santa Claus might do that one time a year, if that's what you believe. But passive income on a long-term rental shows up every month, potentially while you're asleep. It doesn't, and you don't even have to leave cookies and milk out for passive income. It's going to show up. So that's one benefit of receiving that rental income. So if you do work a 9 to 5, and let's say you wish you could make an extra $300 a month, you wish you could make an extra $200 a month. Oh, I wish I could make an extra $1,000 a month. That would really help me out financially so I'm not living paycheck to paycheck. Then passive income might be the answer to your question. Passive income might be the answer to your problem. It might be the solution that you're looking for. But I don't have enough for real estate investing. That's what you think. I can't wait to dive deeper so we can break it down and unveil the curtain to show that this is not as complicated as we think. So good morning as you're tuning in on today to real estate investing benefits and talking about the benefits of long-term rentals. If you have a property, a house, a building, some of you may have a property and it may not be fixed up. Oh, I don't have the money to fix it up so that I can rent it out. Let's talk about that on today. What can we do? So we already talked about income generation and it brings in passive income. It brings in cash flow. After recovering expenses like mortgage payments, property management, and maintenance, and remaining income is cash flow. So long-term rentals give you cash flow. So some people are intimidated because they say, well, if I do get this rental property, how am I going to maintain the mortgage? How am I going to maintain these expenses? What happens if the AC unit goes out? What happens if I have to call the plumber? What if I have to pay property management because I'm not in the state? I don't feel like dealing with all of those things. And so there are formulas and systems before you dive into a real estate investment that you can look at to see if it is profitable for you to dive into that long-term rental. I know because I've done it multiple times. I have rental properties. All of my properties are long-term investments, and all of them are cash flowing. All of them are profitable, and it makes sense. Why? Because I did the math. I did the homework first. Some of the main things that you have to focus on and remember on those properties, I call it MPI, is of course that mortgage, that principal and interest payment that you have to make, that financing, if the property has financing. Then, of course, you have to take into account property tax, insurance. Are you going to get property management? Property management may require 8 to 10% of that mortgage payment. I'm sorry, that rent that you receive. Depends on what you work out and negotiate with them. You do have those expenses, those that may come up. So if you do your math, if you look at the comps in the area, if you find out what the rent is in that area versus what your obligations are, you will know quickly whether or not it is advantageous. Ooh, that's a big word right there. You can find out if it's advantageous for you to rent that property out. But let's say you want to play it safe and you don't want an investment property that has financing. Then guess what? You can buy a property in cash. Yes, it's possible to buy a property in cash. Good morning to you, Mr. Reggie Castile. Welcome back to America after you've gone, on your cruise and everything. We're happy to have you back with us with Coach Steele's finance training. And so, guys, a lot of people are intimidated with real estate investing because they're worried about how will I pay for everything. It is possible to find properties out there that either one, you can purchase and have tons of equity. The price at which you buy some of these properties out here, it is far less than what the property is actually worth. So let's say if you're worried about not being able to maintain it, let's say you're worried about not being able to afford it, guess what? You can buy low, just like real estate, and you can sell high. So keep in mind that you do not have to put yourself in a vulnerable spot financially to have these properties. You can negotiate. If a property, there are properties out there that might be worth $200,000 that you can buy for $100,000. Yes, those deals are out there. And so worst case scenario, if you had to, you can just sell the property and walk away with maybe $80,000 to $60,000. And so I'll give one example. This is one example that I often use. One property I did not want to have to finance. I did not want to have to run my credit. So I found this townhouse that was being sold for $30. It was actually being sold for more, but I negotiated down. So they wanted $40-some thousand for this property. I negotiated down and I bought it for $31,000. Yes, I bought a townhouse for $31,000. I had $31,000 cash sitting in my savings account. And imagine this, don't want to go too deep into math, but if you have $31,000 sitting in a savings account, how much money is it making you monthly? So let's just do some quick math on that. Yes. Let's do some quick math. So let's say you got $31,000 sitting in a high yield interest savings account. And let's say it's making 4%. 31,000. I got 31,000 sitting in a high yield interest savings account, making 4% times 0.04. Then for that year, at minimum, that 31,000 is going to make about $1,240. So, of course, there's going to be some compound interest there, so it'll be a little more than that, right? So divided by 12, that is maybe about $103 and some change, close to $103.33 a month that it's going to make. There's going to be compound interest, but that 31,000, when it's functional, when it's benefiting me, when that 31 is working in a high yield interest savings account, it's going to make me over $103 every month, right? Okay, so we see that. Now, I took that $31,000 and I put it in at a property. And when I put that $31,000 into that property, and of course, initially, the rent I was receiving, and we remember here that 103.33 times 12 was about $1,240, right, for the year. Now, because I put it in a long-term rental property, initially the rent I was receiving from that property was $725 a month. 725 times 12 is $8,700. Now, I could leave it in the high yield interest savings account and I can make a little over $1,240 on the year. Or when I initially put it in this property back in, I think, 2019, I have potential to earn up to $8,700. Now, I bought it outright, guys, because now there's no financing, there's no mortgage payment. But guess what there is? There is still property tax and insurance. Still got to pay property tax and insurance. And this was beautiful. It was a townhouse. It was a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. So the property taxes was like less than $1,000 for the year. And the insurance, landlord insurance, is different from regular home insurance. It's much cheaper. It's less expensive. And so that was about $1,000 a month. So when you look at that, that was about $2,000. So for the year, you're looking at maybe $200 a month in expenses. So $8,700. That is what the gross income is. But if you take $200 a month times 12, total expenses maybe $2,400, right? So if I made $8,700 minus those expenses, that same $31,000, instead of making me $1,240. Good morning to my brother Sean Knowles. Happy to have you tuning in on this morning. As y'all dive on in the room, tell me good morning, greet me. I want to speak to you and all that good stuff. So we see that the profit is $6,300. So because I took the money, the $31,000, and I put it out of the savings account where it was only going to potentially make me $1,240, and I put it into a property, it made me $6,300 initially. Now, what you must understand is that same property today, it is no longer rented out for $725. No. The rent now is $1,100. From 2019 to 2024, the rent has gone up. And so it went up annually. So now we're looking at $1,100 times 12. So now we're looking at $13,200. And I hope you all are able to understand what's happening here. So if that $31,000 in a high yield interest savings account was only making $1,240 compound interest, let's say the next year it makes maybe about $1,300. You must understand that the money grew faster from this long-term rental because now every year the gross from it is $13,200. Does property tax and insurance go up a little bit? Yes, property tax and insurance goes up a little bit. The property tax on this property is now like maybe $1,200 a month, which is still about $100. The insurance might be $1,200, which is about $100. I went over earlier when I said about $200 a month. So it's still, the overhead is nothing but property taxes and insurance. So when we look at this, good morning, Mickey David, $13,200. Let's say, there's some repairs or something else there too. So let's put it to $300 a month. $300 a month times 12 is $3,600, right? So $3,600. So if the gross was $13,200, trying to remember all these numbers, $13,200 minus that $3,600 in expenses, I'm still up $9,600. So imagine the $31,000 initially deposited is making over $9,000 every year, as opposed to leaving it in my savings account where it was only making about $1,200 a year. There's a lot of benefits there. And so that In that high yield savings account, when you have large sums of money just sitting there, it is not as functional and beneficial for you in a long-term rental versus sitting in a savings account. So there are ways to make your money work for you, and then there's ways to make that money work harder. Now, I do tell everyone you should have at least 3 to 6 months worth of cash money sitting in your savings account or somewhere for emergencies and things like that. So I'm not telling you to deplete all of your savings and throw it into real estate. No, that is not wise. So you still want to leave money for emergencies, at least 3 months minimum for that. And so that way you can make your money work for you so that your money can be more profitable long term. And what I want you to understand is if my $31,000 can make at least $9,000 every year, I'm going to eventually double that initial $31,000 investment. I'm going to double that money from the long-term rental money in a few years. In a few years, I will have equaled and then surpassed what I initially put in there. If you were to do that through the high yield interest savings account over a long period of time, $1,200, $1,300, $1,300 every year, it's going to take 20 years. Maybe not 20, but it's going to take a long time to be able to double that 31,000. Whereas in long-term rentals, I can double it much faster. So just keep that in mind and think about it when we talk about long-term rental. Let me get off of the calculator. And as I go through this, if you have questions, please feel free to ask questions that you have along the way. But you see right there, that is an easy benefit. An easy benefit to having those long-term rentals is putting your money to work in other departments and areas. And so even though that example of that one rental property, it's $1,100 right now, another year or two from now, that rent may be $1,200. It may continue to climb. We're going to talk about why people invest in real estate and also how it helps you hedge against inflation. So we understand the cash flow aspect of it. Now, here's the crazy thing, and we're going to keep using that same one rental property as an example into this. So if you're diving into here late, you can always go back when we get done and watch and see kind of where we started with that initial $31,000 investment on that rental property. There's another thing, another benefit to investing in real estate, long-term real estate investing. And the second thing that we're dealing with today is appreciation. Does anyone know what appreciation is? Talk to me today. Does anyone know what appreciation? When we talk about the second benefit of real estate investing, one of the benefits to real estate investing is appreciation. Does anyone know what appreciation means in regards to real estate investing? What appreciation is in connection with real estate? You are correct, Anitra. The value increases. Now, not only are you getting passive income, and we know the benefits of passive income. We talked about how it generates income and cash flow, but the passive income can come whether you're awake or asleep. But then it appreciates in value. Now, that last example that I gave, I bought the property at $31,000. The property at the time was actually worth $50,000. So it was worth about $50,000 in 2018, 2019, whatever year that was. I bought it for 31. Now, see, you're learning some stuff here because it was worth 50. They were trying to sell it to me for about 45. I bought it for 31. I negotiated down. That gave me some cushion. It gave me some wiggle room. I was able to purchase the property and had equity in it. So if something happened, because people always talk about, well, real estate can be dangerous. Yeah, I know that. That's why we have to negotiate properly. We have to negotiate effectively to cover ourselves, to protect our finances, our money. So I negotiated down And so I went into the property with equity. So worst case scenario, if anything happened, guess what? I'll sell it for 45,000. The same thing someone tried to sell it to me for, I can sell it for 45. It was worth 50. That person's still buying it with $5,000 worth of equity. If I had to, I could sell it for $32,000. Guess what? I still made $1,000 profit. I can get out of that property real quick, fast, in a hurry, without panicking, without worrying, without losing any money. It was up. I'm up. If it's worth 50, I bought it for 31. That's about $19,000 worth of equity there that I have potential to make a profit off of. And so you have to understand there are very, very safe ways to be able to win when it comes to long-term investing. And like I said, this may be something you may be interested in, you may not be interested in, or you're curious about how it works. But if you learn this information, you will become more comfortable with dealing with real estate. You're not as intimidated because you're learning your numbers. You're learning different tricks and things you can do to have success in the real estate area. So yes, appreciation. The property appreciate. It was worth 50,000, ladies and gentlemen, but now that property in 2024, going into 2025, it is worth over $100,000. Yes, that 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom is worth over $100,000. So let's say at the max, it's only worth $100,000, right? If it's worth $100K and I bought it for 31, what is my equity in that property now? If I bought the townhouse, the 2-bedroom, 1-bath for 31,000, but it's worth 100,000, what equity? How much equity do I have in that house? If you're tuning in live on YouTube at Coach Steele's Finance Training, or if you're tuning in live on Facebook, no matter what section, comment, or chat, I'll be able to see your response. My brother Sean, yes, Sean is correct. It's that simple. If I bought it for 31,000 back in 2018, and the value at that time was 50,000, and now the value is at 100,000, and I bought it for 31, then the equity there is $69,000 worth of equity. Now look at this, guys. I want you to understand, let's say 2019, 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24. So when we look at 6 years of holding this property, oh, this is so good. There's $69,000 worth of equity. So I can sell the property and potentially walk away with $69,000, right? Or I can keep renting it out. Once again, remember the rent. It's $1,100 a month now. It's $1,100 a month, and the rent is going to go up. So we already did the math with the overhead. So it shows that I'm walking away with a little over $9,000 every year from this property. So if I'm walking away with $9,000 every year, and there's $69,000 worth of equity in it where I could sell, why would I get rid of it? I'm in a safe place. If anything happens, I can disconnect from that property. Remember, I bought it for $31,000. What I never want to do is just become a hoarder of money. In other words, I don't want to see a tower or a mountain of money sitting in my savings account, because there's this thing called inflation. Has anybody ever heard of this thing called inflation? When we listen to this thing called inflation, we're having a good conversation on this morning. And with that property, Vicky Billingsley, appreciation, when we found out what appreciation is, the property increases in value. Every once in a while, you do have to make some improvements and some adjustments. Thank goodness for this property. I really haven't had to make any at all. It's been a blessing. Sean was right. There's at least $69,000 worth of equity. Thank you for tuning in on this morning. Double H, Kevin Harper, And so we like the fact that you're tuning in on this morning. Feel free to continue to comment as we dive in here and use this one property as an example. And guys, I want you to understand, we're just talking about one property. This isn't, what if you have multiple properties and all of these properties you have are appreciating in value, whether it's 69,000, whether it's 100,000, whether it's 50,000. Just imagine how quick you can amass wealth in America with these properties increasing in value. And we already talked about how the rent increases over a period of time as well. So there's appreciation going on. So this is safe. You're in a safe spot because I can get off of this property whenever I want. If the value of properties drop down, let's say 5, 10, 15%, and I can't sell it for 100,000 plus, let's say I can only sell it for 80,000. That's fine. I bought it for 31. I still win. But in the meantime, I keep collecting the rent from this property. So anyway, when we talk about long-term real estate investing, having these long-term rentals and the benefits of it, we see that it brings in more income, more cash flow. So when you're at your 9 to 5, because sometimes you may be at your 9 to 5 job. Sometimes you may need a day off or you need time off and you can't afford to use any more PTO, or you don't have any more sick leave, or whatever the case may be. If you have that passive income working for you, if you creatively set an environment for your money to work for you, then you can walk away, disconnect, take time off without having to worry about how those bills are going to be paid if you're not clocked in. So that's the benefits. That's having the best of both worlds. And Heaven, earlier we were talking about passive income and the benefits of passive income, how it can come in whether you're awake or whether you're asleep. Passive income does not matter. Passive income is like Santa Claus, where it's only going to show up one time a year with gifts. No, it's going to show up every single month when it comes to long-term rental. All right, let's go to the next thing. The next benefit of passive income, rental, long-term renting investment, real estate investing. And so we know appreciation over a period of time, real estate properties generally increase in value, providing investors with capital appreciation when we sell. And the location and market trends significantly impact appreciation rates. So you may have a property somewhere, you didn't think it was going to increase in value much, but all of a sudden they built a gas station by you. All of a sudden someone's property sells for an outrageous amount, and all of a sudden it brings up the value of your property. All of a sudden they decide to build, where's the place people go to gamble? A casino. They build a casino by your property. Now people want to buy your property for 2, 3, 4 times the amount of it, just because of the location. So keep that in mind. We're learning how to make our money functional in a sense. There's something called functional currency, but I'm not talking about functional currency. I'm talking about being able to make your money be more functional and benefit you at a greater level of capacity in a safe way that benefits you even more, to allow you to be able to create generational wealth. And one beautiful way of doing that is through real estate investing safely. Once again, I gave this an example. I had $31,000 sitting in that savings account. It was sitting there. If it's making 4% interest, then that's $1,240 a year. Let's say it was making 10%. 10% of $31,000 is $3,100. But now that it's in this rental property, the rental property that I put it in, remember the gross income was like $13,200, but the net, after all overhead is paid for, it's over $9,600. I think that was the number a year. So leave it in a savings account somewhere just sitting there, and I already have an emergency fund in place. I got this extra money sitting here, and it makes $1,240 a month. Or I put it in this investment property and it's making over $9,600 profit a month. And now the property is worth over $100,000, right? So now it's no longer worth $31,000. That $31,000 just became $100,000. I'm making money faster without having to do anything, with less risk. And not only did my $31,000 become $100,000 in bricks, but now it's paying me every month too. So I hedged against inflation big time. 31,000, 100,000. I'm good. Inflation is not hurting my 31,000. I use the bricks in a property to hedge against inflation. And so we have to understand real estate is a great asset class to hedge against inflation, to protect your money against the value of your dollar decreasing. In real estate, the value of your dollar can increase and you can get paid. Inflation can pay you money. Normally inflation takes from you. It's the silent money killer. But through real estate, inflation has to pay you. Oh, I like that. Because many of you never thought or realized that inflation would have to pay you. But through real estate, inflation will have to pay you. Inflation will have to compensate you. You know, in life, I always say, anytime you deal with foolishness, you should be compensated. So you want to get compensated for foolishness. And inflation can be foolishness, but through real estate, you can be compensated. But anyway, let's continue. Another benefit of real estate, somebody type in there, tax benefits. There are tax benefits to real estate. Sometimes you need to be able to cash out. Sometimes you need to be able to sayonara. Throw the deuces up. I'm out. I'm up. I won. And when it comes to that, you must understand the real estate inflation has to pay you. You must understand that there's going to come a place and a time where, there we go. So there's going to come a time where you're going to cash out. And when you cash out your crypto, and someone in the comment section answer this for me. When you sell that crypto, when you cash out, what is going to be tax implication? What do they call that? First word starts with a C. The second word starts with a G. What is those two words that they're going to call that when you cash out that crypto? What is that? What are those two words? What's going to happen? And this is where real estate comes into play, right? Because what I'm telling you is there's multiple asset classes to invest your money in: stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, cryptocurrency, real estate, gold, silver, these different commodities, oil. There's different ways. Yes, the answer is capital gains. So when you cash out that crypto, there's going to be capital gains tax that come along with it, right? So when you have those capital gains tax to offset that, if you want a tax shelter, real estate is perfect because guess what? You can buy that real estate property and kind of protect yourself against some of those potential capital gains tax because of the tax write-offs that can potentially come with real estate. And I do want you all to know that, one, I'm not a tax professional, but two, next week I have a tax professional coming to talk to us about taxes. So any tax questions you have, you need to come prepared next week because I have a tax professional. She owns her own company. She is awesome. And she's going to come talk to us next Saturday, 9 a.m. about taxes. And any questions you have, like I said, come ready, write them down because she is amazing. She's a beast. So she gets a high off of studying that information. So next week, I will be interviewing someone who will be talking to us about taxes. And I'm sure there's a lot of changes coming up. So maybe she'll be able to tell us what changes or updates are going on with taxes as well. All right. So we do understand we want to have real estate as a tax shelter for us. So there's different benefits. There's deductions. Real estate investors can deduct expenses such as mortgage, interest, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, and depreciation. All of those different things. So when I show you what the net income is or what the gross income is from those long-term rentals, all that other stuff, so that I don't get taxed on all of that money, there are things that I can use to write off so so that the Uncle Sam can't take all of that money from me and I can leave more of it in my pocket. Then there's something else called a 1031 exchange. And that just allows investors to defer capital gains. And instead of paying capital gains taxes when you sell a property and you get ready to walk away with that profit, instead of having to pay Uncle Sam, you can reinvest those proceeds from property sales into a similar investment. And what does that mean? You sell this one property and reinvest it in another property. Sometimes, let's say that one property, your rent was, $1,100 a month. You can sell that property, reinvest it into a similar property with this 1031 exchange, but this next property might be making $1,500 a month or $1,600 a month in rent. And so you made that profit, reinvested it to increase your passive income. And so that's another benefit of that 1031 exchange and the benefit of real estate investing. And so, like I said, this may not be something that you want to do immediately, which is invest in real estate, but you can educate yourself and learn how to maximize your money, maximize cash, and learn the benefits of real estate so you're not as intimidated by it as the average person. Learn how you want to invest in real estate in a way that benefits you. Next, let's go to portfolio diversification. That's another benefit of real estate investing. Real estate is often less volatile compared to stocks and other assets, offering a way to diversify investment portfolios and reduce risk overall. So that's another good thing about real estate is it's pretty steady. It's pretty steady along the way. Someone may be worried. They say, well, what if my tenant moves out? If you have a good property management team, honestly, they'll have somebody else in there within the next month. Worst case scenario, maybe like the next month and a half. So the example I use, there's not even a mortgage payment connected to that property. So if there's no financing, no mortgage payment connected to it, if a tenant moves out, there's nothing really that I have to pay anyway when they move out. So there's no overhead concern or worry or panic. And on top of that, even if you did have a mortgage payment connected and the tenant moves out, use wisdom. Those first few months that the tenants are in there, or the first year, 2 years, however long you want to go, don't spend the rent. Leave it there. Leave some cushion there. Leave a certain percentage of the rent in place in case an emergency happens. It's extra income that you don't need to use anyway. So you don't have to take the rental profits and spend it every month. You can take the rent profit, put it in a high yield interest savings account. You see how we're asset hopping here? We took the money out of the savings account or the high yield interest savings account, right? We went and bought this property. Now when the property makes profits, you can take those profits, sit them in a high yield interest savings account, and almost knocked over the lamp, and let it grow, increase in value. So in case you do need it in case of emergency, you got some cushion, you're safe. And you're doubling that initial investment way faster. And so we're talking about making money grow and being able to have portfolio diversification. So yeah, you can have your money invested in other asset classes, but real estate is pretty steady. And of course, because of appreciation, it increases in value as well. So that's one of the other benefits of it. Let's go to the next one. The next one is leverage. Ooh-wee. You talking about leverage. My goodness. Real estate will definitely give you leverage. Real estate allows investors to use leverage, borrowed funds. You don't have to do this, but allows you to leverage to purchase properties, enabling them to control valuable assets with less initial capital. Listen to me. If you have not ever listened before, when that property has equity in it, oh my goodness, this is something special right here. When that property has equity in it, you can leverage the equity to go and buy other properties. So there are people who own apartment complexes, big buildings, multi-million-dollar valued properties, right? And as tenants pay down those mortgages, as tenants pay down the loans, the equity increases. And the owner of those properties can do cash out refis, or they can get a loan against the property, and they can take that equity out of the property, and it's not a taxable event. Because those are unrealized capital gains being borrowed against, being leveraged. It's not on a capital gain yet. It's unrealized capital gain. It's not official yet. And you can borrow against that, whether it's $1 million, whether it's $50,000, whether it's $70,000, whatever that equity is in there, you can pull it out and put it in your pocket and go have a spending spree. It's not a taxable event. And so a lot of people can make money every year leveraging against their assets, their real estate, and never have to pay taxes on that money. Now, does it cause you that financing or that loan to be reset for a certain period of time? Yes, it does. But most investors aren't worried because the tenants are going to pay it back down again. So they can revisit that situation and never pay taxes. So you can leverage. But most people who leverage those properties, they're not just going to take the money and have a spending spree. They're going to go find another good deal. So now they're not using their money. They're not using their physical money in their account. They're using the asset that increased in value, that appreciated, to go buy more assets, which will create more passive income. And so now we are increasing that passive income from one property to two properties to three properties. And some people call that the Burr method. Has anyone ever heard of the Burr method before? If you heard of the Burr method, type in yes. If you haven't heard of it, type in no. So it is called the Burr method. With the Burr method, you buy a property, you rehab the property, BRRR, Burr method. So it's called a Burr method. You buy the property, you rehab the property, fix it up, whatever's wrong with it, and then you rent it out, long-term rental. What happens after you rent it out for a long period of time? It appreciates. And so once it appreciates, buy, rehab, rent. I may have forgotten it all. After you rent it out for a while, then guess what? You refinance it. You can pull that cash out of it. And then you repeat the process again. Buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. So I left an R out of that. So anyway, that is the Burr method. And so you must understand you can leverage that property. The next thing, you can hedge against inflation. And I talked about this earlier, being able to hedge against inflation. Real estate often acts as an inflation hedge, as property values and rental income typically increase with inflation. So remember that initial 31 build or buy the property, rehab it, rent it, refinance, and repeat. So yeah, there's a fourth R in there. So guys, you must understand that we talked about hedging against inflation earlier. $31,000 to hedge against inflation. I bought the townhouse. It's worth over $100,000 now. As Sean mentioned, there's $69,000 worth of value there that if I decide to sell it. I did a great job of hedging against inflation. It's like I tripled the $31,000. So that's very rare and sometimes difficult to do in this short period of time, investing in the stock market or in other areas. So now crypto has proven to be pretty consistent with helping hedge against inflation as well, which is a good asset. The only thing is, in crypto, for every cryptocurrency, it is hard to receive passive income at the level at which you can receive it in real estate. So crypto is good with hedging against inflation, depending on what cryptocurrency you buy, of course. But the real estate is a tax shelter and it creates passive income. There are some cryptocurrencies where you can stake and make passive income from, in a sense, but nowhere at the level of which, when you look at your return on investment and the percentage at which you can with real estate. Now, next thing, and we're almost close to the end, ladies and gentlemen. So as you continue to tune in, do remember, one, next week we do have someone coming to talk about taxes. And number two, I am doing that $50 giveaway when we hit 400 subscribers. We are very close, so make sure you go to Coach Steele's Finance Training on YouTube and subscribe. If you want to be if you potentially want to be a winner in that $50 giveaway, make sure you shoot me an email with the title of one of the YouTube videos on my YouTube channel, and you have to be a subscriber. So email me and be a subscriber, and you have potential to win that $50. So next, equity growth. And I already talked about this as well. Equity growth, as mortgage payments are made, the investor builds equity in the property, which can be tapped into for other investments or financial needs. So, like I mentioned earlier, that's $69,000 worth of equity. I might need $30,000 of it for whatever, to go buy another property, to, I don't know, do some home repairs. Regardless, the tenant is going to pay it back down again. It's a non-taxable event. So we know that there's equity growth. Next, control over investment. When you put your money in crypto, you put your money in real estate and other places, there's less control over the investment. There's less that you can do, because once it's in the stock market, if whatever happens in the world, it's going to flow with that event. With real estate, you have a little more control, and long term, you can make more decisions to protect yourself in that scenario. Unlike other investment options, real estate provides investors with greater control over decision making, such as property improvements, tenant selection, and management strategies. So that's another benefit of real estate. You know, whether you negotiate with property management to take less over that property, which increases your profit margin, whether you become more selective about tenants and location. You may have tenants where they live in a certain area where the cost of living is very expensive. So you can control what environment you receive that passive income. And so you can make decisions whether you want to improve the property, or you take that long-term rental and turn it into a short-term rental. You have all type of options. Or you can decide long-term, after a tenant has paid off that property, I'm going to move into it. So some of you may have a dream home or a different environment that you decide that, 10 years from now, I want to be in this city. 5 years from now, I want to live in this other country. Guess what? With long-term rental, you can put a tenant in that property, in that environment now, and 10, 15 years from now, they will have potentially paid down either half of that mortgage or completely all of it, and you move into that property and you are not paying a mortgage payment when you move into that destination, that city, that country you want to move in. So we have to start thinking long term. Sometimes you might be working in a state or a city or a country that that's not where you want to retire, or that's not where you want to end up. If you already know where you want to be 10 years from now, go ahead and find an investment property there and have someone paying it down while you also make passive income. If you don't need the passive income, you can store that money up as a nest egg for repairs or whatever adjustments you need to make when you move into that future home. Easy money, guys. So don't always look at real estate investing as, oh, I got to have it now for money. It may be a move that you set up for 5, 10, 15 years from now. So you have control over that investment and multiple investment strategies. We already talked about, buy and hold, and with the long terms, or using that BRRRR method. And some people may just take a property and flip it. And so that's just another quick way to make some money with real estate investing. And last thing I want to talk about when it comes to real estate investing is the long-term wealth building options that you have with real estate. Long term, you can build wealth. Some people refer to it as generational wealth. Why is this important? Why is this valuable? Well, you have to ask yourself, do I want to create generational wealth? Do I want to build long term wealth, not just for myself, but for others as well? So if you're in the comment section and you want to build long term wealth, type in generational wealth, type in long term wealth if that's something you're interested in doing. Real estate is a great avenue and a great way to approach that strategy. Remember what I said when it comes to passive income. When you're building long-term wealth in these real estate investments, the value of those properties are going to continue to grow whether you're awake, whether you're asleep, whether you go from your active income job and 20 years from now you decide to retire. Guess what? This wealth is still continuing to grow over that whole period of time. It's the gift that keeps on giving. That's why it just makes sense to dive into real estate investing. And so when you're building this long-term wealth, you can enjoy it now, this passive income. You get to enjoy it when you leave your active income job. That passive still keeps coming. The rent is still going up every year or every other year, $20, $50, $100. We saw what happened during the pandemic. All rent shot up. For some people, their rent almost doubled in price. Regardless, if you're on the investor side, you saw the benefits of that. And some investors didn't even want to raise their rent, but they had to because the city and the county increased the property taxes. And when the property taxes were increased, for them to be able to maintain that property, they had to raise rent. Now, if you own the property outright, even when the property taxes and insurance are raised, you may not always decide to raise rent depending on the tenant. If you have a good tenant, you may decide to leave that rent at a nice rate level to leave a good tenant in place. Sometimes it's not worth raising the rent when you got a quality tenant in place and your overhead on that property is not that bad. So you might decide to make adjustments there. And so when it comes to long-term wealth building, yes, you can enjoy the benefits of that real estate. But the beauty of passive income when it comes to real estate investing is eventually, even when you pass away, you're gone, whether you have loved ones, nieces, nephews, children, cousins, aunties, uncles, or a cause or something else, a charitable company or organization you want to donate to, through passive income, that money will come even when you are long gone. So long-term wealth building, you can still donate to whatever charitable cause or pass this on to loved ones, family members, you name it, your local church. You can still continue to be a giver to others through long-term wealth building with long-term real estate investing. Real estate investing, who is it for? It could be potentially for everyone. Once again, don't be intimidated by it. Don't say, well, I don't think I can do something like this or it's too risky. Real estate doesn't mind having partnerships. You do not have to go in it alone and invest in properties by yourself. You can partner up with a group of people. How many? You're not limited to the number. You can partner up with one person, two people, four people, whatever makes the deal work for all of you. You can partner up and invest in real estate together. Do not limit yourself. We want to be able to enjoy the benefits of everything that is at our fingertips, ladies and gentlemen, from the income generation to appreciation to the tax benefits to the portfolio diversification to the leverage to hedging against inflation to the equity growth to control over investments, multiple investment strategies, long-term wealth building. Those are 10 benefits to real estate investing when we're doing long-term rentals. If you are jumping in on the end of this, please rewind this and go back and watch it. And remember, it is going to be saved on my YouTube channel, Coach Steele's Finance Trainer. Almost at 400 subscribers. We're going to throw a party and we're going to give away $50. So make sure you